Okay, the first post for my Somehow I Product Manage course is my daily product management routine. I found myself following this routine for the last 4 years, and I figured this would be a great place to start. So, one thing to note is my schedule is never this clean, but I've generally found that every task I do as a product manager can fit into one of these buckets that you're gonna see on in this video. So, my day has generally started at 5 a.m. right here. This is purely because I live on the west coast of the U.S. and I work with tons of teammates on the East Coast, in Europe, and in India. If you and your teammates are located in the same time zone, obviously your day doesn't need to start at 5 a.m. This is just how my days have been for the last 4 years. Anyway, I usually try to spend the first hour of my day checking emails and messages that arrived overnight, and I answer anything that needs a quick answer, and then adjust my plan for the day to account for anything new. At 6 a.m., my kids generally wake up, so I join them in doing my own morning routine and also their morning routine. So things like taking a shower, eating breakfast, getting me and my kids dressed, and getting them off to school. After that, I try to have my first 2 hour block of focus time. This is for dev team work, and this time is all dedicated to preparing work for and reviewing work from my engineering team. I try to ensure they have the level of detail necessary so they can work efficiently and stay in a state of flow here. I'll go deeper into how I spend each of these hours in a future lesson, as there are just different activities that I schedule on different days of the week in this bucket. Next up, 9 a.m. or noon Eastern is when I try to schedule any of my recurring meetings that I refer to as sync outs. So these are recurring meetings, usually weekly or bi weekly, with stakeholders who need up to date information from me to do their own job, or I need information from them to do my job. I generally have a single 30-minute sync out meeting per day, but I like to have an extra 30 minutes before it to actually prepare for that meeting, just so those meetings are efficient and as helpful as possible. Again, in a future video, I'll go through the different meetings that occur in this bucket throughout the week and weeks. And then, okay, so about midday, my email and message boxes have usually filled up, and so I like to have 30 minutes dedicated to simply checking those inboxes and responding to anyone who is blocked, and then planning out my afternoon. And then that leads me into my second 2 hour block of work for the day in the afternoon. This is all dedicated to discovery, design, and delivery. All work in this bucket is work done to discover new ways that my team can provide value to our customers. And then I work with a designer to bring those concepts to life. And finally, after that, after the dev team builds them, which I use this time to build them, or work with the team to build, then I use this time down here to actually deliver that value to customers. I'll do a future post on this one, detailing all the different activities that happen inside of this bucket. But this is generally work like conducting customer interviews, analytics analysis, competitive research, working with product marketing to actually deliver that work to customers, and other things like that. It's interesting to note that delivering new value to customers generates feedback and insights that basically become the foundation for your next set of discovery work. And so this bucket ends up being a nice little loop where you're working through design, discovery, delivery, design, discovery, and delivery over and over. And it's generally quite fun. Lastly, towards the end of the day here, I like to have an hour that's just dedicated to anything else. So these are things like company meetings, company-wide all-hands meetings, department meetings, required training from the HR team, things like that. Career development, if I have something that I'm working on, or a skill that I'm working on, or just anything else. I generally don't always have something scheduled in this bucket, and it's really nice that way, because oftentimes it's just nice to have an hour towards the end of your day to deal with any spillage or overage that happens in any of these other buckets of time, which almost always happens. There's always something going on that's going to cause work to spill out of one of these buckets. And then lastly, I like to have a workout. I try to schedule my workout before I actually sign off for the day. This gives time for any of my teammates or colleagues to actually send me something at the end of the day, and I'll still be able to have time to read it. And then the workout, it also just serves as a nice way to let my brain air out towards the end of the day before I actually check those emails, check those messages, and plan out my day for tomorrow. So if you kind of squint at this, you can see there's about 8 hours of in-seat work over a 10-hour period. You'll notice I do not have time for lunch. As a parent with kids, I just don't have that kind of time. I generally eat snacks throughout the day. I'll make a post and lesson about this. I think some of my coworkers generally used to make fun of me for that, but I'll make a post about how I do that. And that's it. It's important to note that my days, they're never, I would say, this clean. This is simply kind of an average day, but it's also kind of a schedule I aspire to because of how it has periods of focus time, periods of email checking and message checking to ensure that no one who I'm working with is blocked by me for too long. And it also, I found generally, if I can follow this schedule, it generally is a pretty enjoyable way to work. And it follows my own brain, my own brain cycles of being focused, and then maybe needing some creative time in the afternoon. And that's it. In future lessons, I'll dive deeper into the actual tasks that are occurring in each of these buckets, right? And yeah, that's it. Thanks so much.